Second.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the joint committee meeting of Public Safety and Transportation of Community Board 1. I am Chris Hanway, Chair of the Public Safety Committee, and I am joined, who is going to take over in a few minutes, by Dominic Stiller, who is the Chair of the Transportation Committee. I want to thank you for joining. I'd like to thank a representative from the 114th Precinct for joining us this evening. I am not honestly sure who that is at this point, so my apologies. Oh, it's Officer Tovar. I apologize. Officer, thank you. Just a quick housekeeping. I am going to take the role for the members of the Public Safety Committee, as this is a public meeting and we do need to keep attendance. So I, as chair, am here. Co-chair Frank Fredericks, are you with us this evening? There's Frank.
Present.
Frank, am I correct that you will be doing note-taking duties as well?
Indeed, to the best of my ability.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. I'll continue with the roll. George Alexiou. George, are you here? Okay, no. And Bruno?
And Bruno is sick, and George Alexiou did call the office stating for the full board he would be traveling, so I'm thinking he's out of town for your informational purposes.
Okay, thank you, Florence. Kian Betancourt?
Here.
Thanks, Kian. Jean-Marie DeLeva? And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing any of these names. Dean Faratovic? And Abdel Hamid? All right. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Dominic, who will lead us through the bulk of the meeting. I would just kind of remind everybody that for the initial part of the meeting, at the very least, we are going to have members of the committee ask questions. There will be an opportunity for additional questions from the public. And we are going to break this into several topics related to the, excuse the very bad pun, intersection of public safety and transportation. We ask that any questions that you have for each segment be relevant to the topic of that segment. So rather than confuse things any further, I will take this opportunity to turn it over to Dom, who is going to walk us through and introduce our guest from the precinct.
Thanks very much, Chris. And thanks for Florence for setting up this meeting. And I think it will be informative and important meeting for our committee and our both committees. So I'm going to take our attendance again for the YouTube record. So please tell me if you are here. Kian Betancourt?
Here.
On both. You're here twice.
I'm on both committees.
Antonella Di Severio? I know she's here and she said she's in the car. But if you could say yes, YouTube would know it. Antonella? I'll go on. Adam Cox?
Here.
Shehnaz Hamdi?
Here.
Yuma?
Here.
Tom Ryan? Bobby Feltow?
Here.
Daniel Aliberti? Christina Lastris? Amin Mahedi? Nas Magutas?
Here.
Okay. So, and then from the committee, I see also Kinella Williams and our chair, Evie Hanzopoulos. Is there anyone else here that's joined from our committee that I didn't note? It's not on either of the subcommittee.
You mean from the full board?
From the board. I'm so sorry. Is anyone here from the full board? Okay. So, let me open up my Excel. So I'll probably share an Excel soon. And just to introduce what we're trying to do here is discuss complete streets and certain awareness with the police department. So we'll meet the community affairs officers in a few minutes. Just some observations And I've got some scribbled notes here, but I think that there's a reality that the police department and the community sometimes look at the streets from different vantage points. For example, the community takes public transportation to and from work and uses it socially. The police department representatives aren't known to be frequent users of the public transport, especially on their way to and from work. And we'll discuss all these items. I just want to list these observations and then the items, and then we'll start the discussion. The community rides bikes throughout the community and to other parts of the city. The police department, by and large, does not so much. The community are pedestrians in the streets more often than not. And, you know, it's apparent that the police are not so much. So our different uses of the streets kind of give different vantage points about street safety and the importance of the streets. And the questions that we're going to be asking, or would be interested in getting feedback on, are, and they're listed in my Excel as certain columns, so you'll see them. But curious in the how much awareness there is in the police department regarding these items. And then I'd like to discuss with the community affairs officers if that awareness if there's an interest in increasing it or decreasing it or keeping it the same. So I'd like to note if these items are, you know, in your opinion, considered high, that there's a high awareness of them, a medium awareness of them, or possibly a very low awareness of them and of the importance of them. They all, in their importance, metrically would be a question like, well, how many violations are written regarding these items? And then we'd love to know, maybe not now, maybe in 6 months, in 12 months, are they increasing? Are they staying the same, or are they decreasing? And then lastly, I'd like to know that, are there any specific officers at the 114 that would be interested in working to broaden awareness of some of these items? So with that, I'm going to share my screen. So thanks for your patience. So do you see my screen? Yep.
Yes, we do.
All right. So let me actually, I think I jumped the gun by not meeting the community affairs officers. I'm going to stop the share real quick. Sorry. So sorry. Who's here from the NYPD? Is it Officer Tovar? I see you there with your green hat here.
Officer Tovar.
Thanks.
Hi.
Hi, Officer Tovar. You look familiar to me, so I've met you before. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining. And your title would be Community Affairs Officer, or
Police officer.
But so, and what's your, like, where does the community affairs come in? Excuse my ignorance.
I'm assigned to community affairs. I work for the 114th precinct, and my rank is police officer.
And what is the community affairs?
What is community affairs?
Yeah, is it a department? Is it a...
Yeah, well, it's not a department, but it's an office in the police department in the 114th precinct. I deal with events that are happening in the community, dealing with street closures or with deployment of resources, dealing with complaints from the community, addressing these complaints. It's a lot of different things that I do.
How many community affairs officers are at the 114?
We have 3 community affairs officers.
3. Okay. All pretty much equal rank, or is one of them?
They're all off.
Is one of them the boss of me? You know how you kids say?
Yeah, no, they're all the same rank. We're all police officers.
Okay. All right, great. So pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much for coming by. So now I will share this this list. So I'm going to list the items that we'd like to discuss, and we really just want to rattle them off 5-10 minutes each. And I think the way we're going to do that, if you don't mind, Officer Tavar, is put all the discussion to the end. So let me read the list. I think you can all see that they come from a specific section of a certain law, and there's a description here. And my questions in columns F through I are, I'd kind of like to know the HML in question F is the 114 awareness throughout your ranks high, medium, or low? Column G is approximate amount of violations per month. And if you don't know, you don't need to know. And then H is, would this amount of violations for these specific infractions be increasing or decreasing? I'm curious, and maybe this is something we could look at in a year with this new awareness. And then any comments, I'll throw in item I. So the first item is failure to yield violations. So this is about motorists yielding for pedestrians. I guess I would say it's typically at a crossing. Item 2 that we'd like to discuss is darkened windshield violations. Darkened windshields, they eliminate that communication and the contact from a pedestrian to a driver. So if you're a pedestrian or a cyclist, they can be very important and quite negative. Item 3 is about fake or defaced license plate violations. Love to know the metrics on that and the interest at the 114. Item 4, commercial and residential parking on sidewalks violations. And I know that there's a big elephant in the room about how police officers typically park, and this is not intended to even touch that. This is really intended to touch our commercial and residential area where there's a high proportion of people that just park on the sidewalks, and it affects people with strollers, people, elderly people, and it also brings down the value of the area, and it's detrimental in that respect. Sometimes it fully blocks a sidewalk or not. It's illegal. 5 is fake placard or placard abuse violations. I know the city council is doing a lot of work on that. We'd like to know the 114's awareness of that. Item 6 is blocking of bike lanes violations, which is rampant, and like to know the awareness there. And then lastly, or second to last, vehicles parked at crosswalk violations, which eliminates pedestrian visibility and has led to some grave consequences in our city in the past few years. And then the last item, which I'm putting on the end, and also I don't think it's excessive car chases and the policy about that, but we're not intending to rehash any recent public sessions at all on that. So I think what I'd like to do is hear your comments on everything and then take questions from the committees. So with that, you see the list. Please let us know your thoughts.
Okay, now you're asking me, correct? Making
Yeah,
sure.
of course. Yep, you are. The spotlight is on you.
Absolutely. So, okay, so, I am, when you were talking about awareness, I thought you were talking about that you guys didn't have the awareness, because we officers obviously are often pedestrians. I'm a pedestrian when I'm not working, and I ride bicycle, and I do ride the subway and the Long Island Railroad and different public transportation. But I know what you mean. Like, while we're working, are we paying attention to these things, I guess is what you're asking. And if we're aware that these are issues that are concerned, but we are part of the community also. Officers are. So just to address the questions, I have the numbers for the failure to yield. I can do those first. Give me a second.
Thanks. And let me know on each one if you think the awareness is high, medium, or low, if you don't mind. just so we get a proportion between them all, if you can. But definitely want that info.
So for all of these are very high, very taken very seriously by the police department and by the precinct. So they all of them are going to be taken very seriously, and all of them are serious. I don't have, just so you know, just as a
Whatever you do have,
just to let you know,
understood.
today's my I don't if I was working, I could pull up on the computer some of these numbers, but anyway, I did request a lot of these numbers in advance, so I can tell you the failure to deal with pedestrians. Failure to deal with pedestrian in the month, we have 47 substances. That's up versus 21 for the last month, and then we have it's an increase of 26. I'm sorry, actually, it's 47 compared to 21 last year during the same time period. So the way that the measured is a 28-day period, which is 4 weeks, and we compare this month or this 28-day period to last year's 28-day period.
Right.
So we have 47 up 26, and year to date we have 523 compared to last year's 487, also up 38. That's the failure to yield.
437, same period, 2023.
523 versus 485. Yep.
485. Gotcha. You came prepared.
Well, with that one.
Yep.
So now one darkened windows.
Can I just say one thing, Officer Tavares? Your audio is cutting in and out, and it's so important for us to hear, and it'll just be a drag on the whole. So if there's any way you can just maybe be closer to your mic or whatever you could do, just be aware that it's a little garbledy. So thanks.
Well, I'm sitting in my driveway because this is the only quiet place I can find.
Sure,
I just got her off from our she did track meet, and I got the kids inside, and I just this is it. This is all.
You sound great. You sounded great now. You know what it is? It's just the transition, the first few words.
Dom, so you're aware, Officer Tovar is off today, so he's doing this to accommodate us. So he's making the best of a difficult situation.
I think Officer Tovar gets my point. It's just the first few words that we're not hearing, so maybe just whatever. Go, please proceed.
All right. So then the darkened windows, tinted windows, as we call them, tints. That is one of, to me, it's a very, very dangerous thing. So when we stop somebody, not only does it affect their visibility, if we're pulling somebody over for, let's say, failure to yield, and they have darkened windows, it's very hard to see inside that car. It makes it a very dangerous situation. It makes it a very dangerous situation. We take that very seriously. When I used to work late at night, and I used to write tickets, I don't do patrol anymore or do any kind of enforcement whatsoever. But when I did, I took that very seriously. That was one of my main tickets that I would write. But I don't have those numbers for you, but I would imagine that they are pretty high. But I don't know. I don't know the numbers at all.
Sure, that's fine. Do you think they're increasing? Do you think the awareness is increasing, Officer Tovar?
Awareness? I think the awareness is extremely high. When you're in the police academy, they talk about how dangerous a situation that is, with the tinted windows, not being able to see inside the vehicle.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's a police officer working anywhere that deals with any kind of vehicle stops that doesn't know how dangerous tinted windows are.
So that's exactly the point. And thanks so much for your patience, because pedestrians, we're not going over to the car. We're not arresting anybody. We're not asking anybody for their ID. Do you know what I mean? Hey, you're gone. You know what I mean? But we have a different concern with the same, potential violation. So I think it's important that the police officers, yes, of course, they don't want the tinted windows for their own safety, 100%. But if we could possibly expand, and maybe it is already, so maybe I'm just, maybe I'm just old, but if we could possibly expand the awareness to the police officers that those tinted windows are important for pedestrians, not
Well,
just.
I'm not trying to give you lip service here and just
Oh,
tell
no,
you.
you're not. Your time is so appreciated.
I could say that that the officers know that it is dangerous to people, but they do know this. But what I'm saying is that you're asking if we're aware that this is a violation, this is a crisis, this is a problem. We are aware. Everybody's very aware of it. And it's one of the things that we target.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it, but it does reach the same end if we are targeting the infraction that you are looking targeted, even if you think we're approaching it for a different reason, it still serves the same purpose.
Understood. I just think we want the police officers to be aware that there's two purposes, but I understand.
It's
actually
I don't even think you can get your car inspected or pass an inspection or anything if you have tints on your windows.
This is absolutely the mystery that in some research that I was doing, was going to be one of my follow-up comments. How do people pass inspections? Are there inspection shops that should be looked into?
I don't even know how people get licenses sometimes. I wonder that dramatically, but our task is not to find out whether or not people are qualified to drive. That's DMV, that teaches people how to drive, tries to teach them the rules. Our job is to enforce them. So we're given what we got, and we have to do the best that we can with it.
Sure.
But the DMV, I don't know if you're going to have the DMV at the next meeting. That'd probably be a good one because I have a lot of questions for them too.
We'd be happy to. It's a good suggestion. But you know what? It's hard to know who the contacts are, So anytime you want to move on to the next one, Officer Tovar, because once again, your time is really appreciated. And I want to get to questions once we roll through them all.
All
so
right,
the next one is fake or defaced license plate violations.
Fake or defaced license plate.
For cameras.
Yeah, I know I have it here. So the license plates this year, we have 23 arrested, and we have 30 summonses issued. And then for like obstructed plates, we also have 59 summonses issued. A lot of times it is an arrest situation, so we're not going to have as many summonses as you'd like, but it's usually an arrest situation. All right, so
understood.
The next one is, what do we got here? Fake or defaced, commercial, residential parking in sidewalk. I don't have the sidewalk stuff. To be honest, as far as parking summonses go, a lot of those 311 calls are immediately picked up by the traffic agents that are out there, especially during the day, and they're not going to report to us how many tickets or anything like that. So I don't have those numbers.
Is there I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Is there it's rampant in the south end of our community board, Dutch Kills, parking on sidewalks. It's rampant, and there's daily instances of blue cars, police cars passing by and just driving right by. So that makes it appear like there's not a high awareness of it.
So I kind of started a little funny, but I'll let you know just a couple things. One, the awareness is really high. The officers that we have right now, we have, I don't know if I'm supposed to get into for tactical reasons, how many officers we have and how many officers we put out on a daily basis. But our officers in this 28-day period, which is from November 17th to December 15th, we've answered 10,498 911 calls and 2,986 311 calls. And that's all answered by the same amount of officers. It's about 100. It's about 100 over all three tours. Two-thirds of them. It's not a very good large number.
I'm sorry, did you say 10,000 a month, Officer Tovar?
No,
911 calls?
been a slow month. Yeah, it's about 10,498, 10,500-ish. It's
Right.
actually 10,498 is the exact number of 911 calls and an additional 2,986. We're one of the busiest precincts here in the city and in Queens, but nonetheless, we get out there. So when I used to do patrol, we used to have a lot less 911 calls, and we used to drive around in between 911 calls and drive around and address conditions and have time to, stop and get, check on, summonses or whatever. And a lot of times now I find like the officers are really just going 911 call to 911 call to 911 call or 311 call to 911 call. But the problem with 311 calls also, you have, the priority level. So you have to go to 911 calls first. But
You're saying
nonetheless,
you're saying you get 300 plus a day.
yeah. But we're a slow month because like in the summer we usually get a lot higher. We get usually about 14,000 911 calls and another like 4,000 311 calls
Per month.
per month.
Wow.
28 week is a 28-day period, so it's only a month in February when it's not a leap year. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, understood.
So,
Yep.
but I don't know what the February. I didn't pull those.
Okay.
But nonetheless, that's what we're dealing with. So when you see the officers drive by, even though they don't have the lights on, there's if it says 114 on the side of that car, I would bet every single time that they're on their way to a 911 call. And you're talking about an officer who probably did not get his lunch break and is going to some place, and that person that car that's parked or whatever it is, there's somebody waiting on them. Somebody having a really bad day waiting on us, calling, saying, I have an emergency here.
Appreciate it. Yep.
So I know that you guys put in to get extra cops for us, and I really appreciate that and so does Astoria, because that is this community needs it pretty bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, the awareness isn't not there because we don't stop and get that that ticket. We don't write that ticket. It's just sometimes the priority, they have to get to where they're going and they get there. So all right, so that's why you might see somebody drive by that and not write the ticket. Fake placard and placard abuse violations, that is also taken very seriously. We have several different watchdog agencies, not agencies, entities checking us and checking for police officers with their placard abuse. And then as far as the fake placards, that's treated the same way, because only somebody who's qualified to be able to tell the difference, expert in it would be able to identify if it's fake. And those are checked. And if you call, if anybody calls 311 to report it or anything, they'll be able to. It's investigated by. It's a chief of, I forgot who it is. Chief of. Oh, it's quality assurance, standards and assessment. Standards assessment gets it, and they respond as well, and it's constantly checking in. So
Right.
that's that one. And you wanted to know about awareness. Awareness is high. Blocking bicycle and bike lane violations is also, awareness is high. Let me see if I have numbers for that. I don't have it. Crosswalk violations. I don't. Again, a lot of the parking summonses,
Right,
are going to be mainly addressed, especially if they're reported through 311, mainly going to be addressed by traffic agents, especially during the day, and they're not going to report those numbers to us. I could have, I guess, I didn't know that you wanted those numbers. And if you want, you can always make a request through Florence, and Florence will let me know, and I can try to get those numbers for you guys. And then excessive car chases policy.
so with that, can I just stop you for 1 second because of the plan, Officer Tovar? Sorry, thanks. On all those other ones, yeah, we would like to talk after about possibly getting that data semi-regularly if you're open to it. I also would be happy to meet you at the open meetings if you ever do attend. I'd like to let Nas Magudis, the co-chair or the vice chair of the Transportation Committee kind of introduce just to kind of put on record the car chase stress that's been going on, and to just before you address it, would that be all right? Just for Nas to say a few words to kind of explain it to people.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Nas.
your meeting. Do you?
Thanks, officer.
Hey, thank you, Dom, and thank you, Officer Tovar. Yeah, so I think here, and there may be some people here that were at the last police community council meeting regarding one particular high-speed vehicle chase that occurred and resulted in the death of a community member. And so I think what the community is very concerned about is the fact that, and in case you aren't aware, for any member of the public who's here who might not be aware, and correct me if I'm wrong, Officer Tovar, but basically the policy regarding these high-speed chases is that if it is deemed more dangerous to have the person fleeing rather than to let them go and try to catch them later, then basically that's the only situation where a high-speed chase should happen. And so, but what we've seen is, first off, that Astoria actually has quite a lot of high-speed chases. It's going along all over the city, but Astoria is a pretty dense area for them to occur. I suspect for reasons related to the arterial nature of, the bridges and kind of the interconnectedness that the area has. But we're just seeing a lot of these chases happen that don't appear to meet the criteria for, as being incredibly important to do to prevent further danger. We're seeing kind of the opposite. And just to point out as an example, well, there was one yesterday, so I was going to say that the most recent one was, it was the burglary of a construction site. There was a chase, and a community member was killed in that chase. So given the policy, it's a little hard to wrap our heads around, well, if that is policy, then, maybe is one hand not talking to the other in the department? Like, why were those officers engaging in that? And just in general, why is there such a high volume of these going on in Astoria and Long Island City? So, and I know that there was some discussion at the last council meeting, but this is a little bit of a smaller setting, a little bit more focused. So we just wanted to hear if you're aware of the issue. Is command doing anything to let officers know that, like, hey, these really need to be specially considered circumstances, et cetera. So I'll let you go off of that.
Okay. So, as far as the pursuit that you're asking about, that one is currently being investigated, and it's being investigated both criminally against the burglars, and then it's also being investigated against the officers, also by the state attorney. So I'm not really going to be able to just comment much on it, and I'm not allowed to speculate because I'm not really privy to I'm not privy to the investigation at all. It's not actually being both are being conducted by not conducted by the 114 precinct. So I'm not informed in any part of that. So I can't really give information on that. But as far as your question about the what makes the pursuit, like whether or not we're going to pursue or whether we're not going to pursue, so, or what exactly is your question? If you can just clarify that for me, just so I can actually
I guess,
answer it better.
or just to drill it down,
Sorry.
is why is it that why is Astoria and Long Island City such an outlier in terms of the volume of the high-speed pursuits?
I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna have to that would be speculating to see why there's more 911, why there's more pursuits here, why there's why we're busier, why there's more 911 calls, why does it have to do with the bridges, like you said, the BQE, the nightlife that we have, the all of those things. I'm not 100% sure why it is that we have that.
Okay, and then I guess just my last point on this is I think we would like to, if it's not on command's radar that this is happening at a sort of distinct rate compared to other areas, that as a community we would like to maybe have a little bit of a closer look at, like, why is this happening? Is this a matter of command not informing rank and file properly? Is this an issue of certain kinds of individuals coming to the area? Like, I think that this issue has kind of reached a peak, and so I think kind of the gist of us bringing this to this meeting is, like, we want to hopefully get a little bit more insight into what's going on from your end, what you're seeing, and what the 114 might be doing about it going forward, given recent events. So that's all. I'll leave it at that.
All right. So we hear it. We hear you. And we know, and the NYPD hears too. And the policy, the pursuit policy, is not a 114 policy. The NYPD doesn't have separate policies from other precincts in the department. I don't know if I feel like I should point that out. So we're all governed by the patrol guide. It's quoted there, or paraphrased, possibly. But it was we're governed by that, and then we all have to. Every precinct has to follow that. Every officer has to follow that. So it doesn't matter whether you work in Staten Island or whether you work in the Bronx. You have to follow the same policy. So the NYPD does hear it and has heard it. It's a citywide concern, and yeah, it is also a concern for the officers and for the precinct. But I can't tell you that they're going to stop or anything like that. I don't have any kind of authority to make that kind of decision or claim.
But do you have the, may I step in, Ness?
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess as part of this, and then we'll throw questions open, Officer Tavarin, is, we're hoping that you have the interest and ability to take all these concerns back to the broad population, in a structured way through the management of the 114. And we're hoping we can, slowly but successfully affect change over time. That's the goal here.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
But isn't that the purpose of this meeting? That's why I'm here. So when this is what we're doing here. And then, I just got through. I think I thought I meant to say, I don't know if I said it. I thought I said it. I meant to say that the NYPD hears you and the 114 precinct hears you and I hear you. And, we hear this concern. It's a concern in the whole city is talking about this, and the officers hear it, and I'll bring the message back.
Thanks. Just because you don't have infinite time, we're going to now go to committee members' questions. I don't see too many. So Adam, your hand is up. If anyone else has any questions, will you put your yellow hands up?
Thanks, Officer Tovar. I guess there's a lot of things we could talk about with like, just kind of litigating the stats and the facts of all this. I think, you or various folks in the 114 have been hearing about this a lot. And I think one thing that's, kind of frustrating and as the community, I don't think we really know what to pin that frustration on, but I'm hoping can get some answer on that here is just that we, share these concerns. We hear from, individuals at meetings like this that they're being heard. But there's not visible signs of change, or we're not, we don't even know what to look for. So I guess my question to you is like, are there, if this is something that's being heard by NYPD, by 114, are there things we can look for that may change? I'm not asking you to tell me that, that things are going to change, but like what would change if something that we can see on the street rather than just like looking at the stats from a year from now and kind of seeing if a number went up or down? Are there ways that like patrol policies of where officers might be assigned could change? I feel like, at least personally, and maybe I'm over speaking for the community here, but it doesn't seem clear to me like what even the realm of possibility is in terms of what could be done, what might be done about any of this to kind of be more responsive to the community's concerns here, and maybe understanding what the possibilities are would be more helpful for us in making a request.
And you're speaking specifically regarding pursuits?
I mean, I guess I do have that question about everything, but yeah, we can focus it on the pursuits here of what could we really ask for here? Obviously, there are some cases that require a pursuit, but there's a concern that it's maybe too much. What, from the inside here are actual things that we could, potentially see change or request more resources into or anything like that.
So the department policy and the patrol guide are constantly changing and being updated. With it's gonna keep changing. I'm not sure. I'm not part of that decision making. That happens at a higher level, and then they tell then the precincts have to obey those rules and those guidelines. So as far as I take the message back, and it's gonna go up, and it's gonna go all the way back to One Police Plaza and everything. So the message is being sent to One Police Plaza, and that's where the change is gonna come from. So
on something, the police chases is a particularly fraught issue. On something that's maybe a little bit more small scale, like ticketing tinted windows or something like that, could we as the community board like ask you, the 114, to devote more officers to being out in the street and just like looking for those things and ticketing those things? Would a request like that be heard and be able to change internally there, or is that something that's again from kind of top down and not something we can really ask for and expect a practical response to?
Well, each if it's a concern, if it's like a issue or a condition that's happening, I guess specific, we could take a look at it. But I didn't even give you the numbers for the tinted windows. I didn't bring them. I didn't know that you wanted to know how many tinted windows we had.
I posted them in the chat, actually. I looked them up from the NYC Open Data Portal, which and filtered to the 114.
Is that
It was 359 violations in the year of 2024 so far.
And Cam, just for our records, if you don't mind pulling, it usually has the previous year to date match on that. It would be great. So we have a directionality of that just for our records.
Yeah, I can pull it for 2023.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we can use open data and I appreciate it. But I also like to hear the in general, want to hear the NYPD's stats too. No, sorry. Go ahead, Officer Tovar.
I'm sorry. I was on mute there, and I'm not 100% sure at what point I went mute. So I was gonna say that I didn't give you the numbers for the tints. Did you guys hear me say that?
We did.
Okay, excellent. So you know, Mr. Betancourt just said that he posted the numbers, but just in case, I would like to be able to provide them and to make sure that they are accurate, because there has been some misreporting in the past, especially when you're looking at raw data, and it might be better if I just give you the right numbers. But I don't have them, and I don't have the ability to get them here from my driveway. So
You probably have the more updated ones anyway. I think there's like a reporting lag on the data portal, so I'm pulling like the most recent. And I'm trying to pull all the right codes together because there's no one tint. You guys have different violation codes for like front tint, side tint, so on and so forth. So certainly open to any other stats you can bring.
yeah, and as far as the addressing the traffic stuff or getting those numbers up, I feel like, I mean, again, I'm community affairs. I'm not decision making here, and but I'll tell you that I think that the NYPD is like number one and foremost priority is responding to the 911 calls. I think that's the first thing. The whole scope is to provide public safety, and to make sure that people aren't parked illegally or driving with tinted windows and all those things, because all that contributes to public safety. And they're definitely a hazard. But as far as 911 calls, I think that's always going to be like the priority, their main mandate the officers are going to do. So just with the volume and everything, I think that's where we deploy the majority of our officers there. But yeah, absolutely. I can take that message back, and I can come back. I can get Florence the tinted window summonses and arrests. Actually, I'm sure that they would lead to a lot of arrests.
Just to close up and clarify, so what you're saying there, if I'm understanding correctly, is that there's such a volume of 911 calls, and that's where officers are dedicated, that were we to ask for something like, can you put some officers on this other thing? The answer is probably practically no, because there's so much volume of 911 calls, and that's just not something that you could really do at this time.
No, I'm saying that our number one priority is going to be the 911 calls. But yeah, we'll go out there and do the summonses and all those things. But as far as I'll take the message. I'm not sure. I don't. I'm not the one that's going to do the deployment of the officers. So I'll let somebody else decide whether or not we have enough officers.
Understood. Thanks.
So in the interest of time and appreciating your time, Officer Tavar, Antonella was next, and then Nas, and then Keenan has his hands up, but maybe you spoke. So Antonella.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Officer Tavar. Density, I know density in our area is very challenging. And I'm more interested in this illegal scooters. And I mean, you guys at the 114th have been amazing. There was a woman who was robbed outside near my house, and the police officers at 114 came right away. And in the instances in our area, the response is great, and you guys really go above and beyond, in my opinion. But can you comment to where we are with respect to illegal scooters and the gangs that are robbing in our area? What's the state of affairs on that side of things? And again, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have the numbers of the amount of scooters or motorcycles that have been confiscated, and but I do know that we have some robbery patterns that are associated with people on mopeds robbing people, and but I don't have the numbers for how many summonses or how many arrests. I didn't bring those.
Okay, but maybe in a future meeting, maybe it's something that you can let us know what's going on, is is the trend going down in terms of robberies? Or, what do we have to look out for? Maybe more awareness in our areas too, like just what to keep an eye out for. Like in this case, the scooter went down the block, canvassed, and then came back around and robbed this woman with her dog. So I mean, I think maybe just if it's becoming more prevalent, maybe just to give us some tips to be on the lookout.
It's always going to be a concern because it the scooters and the two-wheel motorcycles or whatever, they have ability to kind of go against traffic and get away, and people tend to use those, so, and they steal them a lot to commit those crimes. So it is always a concern, but I don't have those numbers. But yeah, I will have them for next time.
Thank you, Officer Taylor.
I'll add that metric or that metric to the list, which I think we'd like to kind of send to you and possibly get the numbers once every 6 months or whenever we agree. But certainly don't want to throw any more work your way. So Nas, and then Kian, and then Frank.
Hi. So circling back to something that you kind of mentioned passively while you were answering another question, but I just want to get some clarity. So with full understanding that, like, and I've been to my fair share of Build the Block meetings and community council meetings, with full understanding that, like, yes, 911 calls take precedent, of course. But I think overall, like, our list is sort of within the scope of like, hey, all these 311 type issues kind of add up to something ultimately that like may lead to a chase or things like that. And we see that a lot of these chase vehicles, they're the ones that have defaced plates, they're the ones that have the tinted windows, so they're kind of interconnected in ways that, like, yes, understandably they don't start as like a 911 call, but then like they have potential, as we've seen, to be a 911 call. So in that vein, I would just say, like, I think I saw about a year ago, and my understanding is at the time this was new, but you can let me know if the 114th does this or not, that the 104 in Ridgewood was piloting having traffic enforcement agents, T agents, the ones that typically write like the meter tickets, things like that, responding to all traffic related 311 complaints, which to me as a layperson makes sense. Obviously, you want your officers on the priority calls, and then Ts, which are like non-emergencies, can answer 311. So are the Ts for the traffic enforcement agents for the 114th doing that? Are you running a similar program? Is that like policy across the board? Do you have any insight into that?
I don't know whether it's a pilot program or whether it's in practice, or whether it's just the official policy, but we do have traffic agents responding to 311 calls mostly during the day. But as far as and 311 jobs for traffic, but as for parking summonses, very rarely do traffic agents stop vehicles. It's one of the most dangerous things that police officers do is stop vehicles. And a traffic agent, an unarmed traffic agent, is not going to stop the vehicle. They do have, I think that there are traffic agents that have some sort of qualification that they are able to stop vehicles, but there are very few traffic agents that have that qualification.
And just one quick follow-up on that. So as far as you're aware, is any traffic agent that is out there doing, their routes for parking tickets, are they also being instructed to, like, hey, if you, and obviously not moving violations, things like that, but like if you see a car stopped on the sidewalk, that's also a ticket. If you see a car stopped on the sidewalk that has a defaced plate, that's also a ticket. Like, is that within their purview, like broadly, or is that not the case?
Yeah, they write all types of traffic parking summonses, all of them.
Okay, thank you.
So, Kian, please.
Hey, Officer Tovar. Yeah, my question is mostly, I know you've seen me come to the meetings a lot, so a thing I've focused a lot on is 311, and specifically mostly because I can pull that data fairly easily. And I'm not going to get into the exact stats or anything, but when I pulled this a couple of months ago, what I noticed was that the average 311 response time within the 114th precinct was significantly lower than it was of any of our neighbors, and that included East Elmhurst, Jackson Heights, Woodside, Long Island City, and Sunnyside. So, we could say maybe it's about density, but, if we're talking Long Island City or Sunnyside, I would say that's probably pretty similar. My other concern simply being, beside response time, when I dove into this, I think I found that it was single digit percentage. It was like 5 or 8% or something of all 311 complaints were closed within 5 minutes or less. And that kind of struck me as odd, given that I would say it's probably really unlikely that you'd have any, 311 complaint that was appropriately investigated, closed within 5 minutes, especially a fairly high percentage, maybe 1 or 2, but, 5% of all of them. So just curious on the nature of 311. What's the system you guys are using there? Is there anything are you guys tracking those metrics? Is that something you guys look to improve over time? Anything along that line?
Um, the response times are, a function of how many officers we have compared to how busy they are, and then depending on the type of job, and then obviously even though you start with, a certain amount of officers in a day, in on one, ready to go, you're going to have this many vehicles. You might lose one to an arrest. You might lose one to an arrest from the night before, that's a hospitalized prisoner, or maybe you need to lose one to, there's a million things, whether it's lots of issues that you might have. Somebody might lose a car, and then that's gonna adversely affect your response time. And then also, like, depending on the type of job, some jobs take longer than others. Others can be handled quicker than others. So as far as 311 jobs being closed out within 5 minutes or 5 seconds, you said 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
I
or
don't know.
less. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how or why that is. I would imagine that some of the stuff might have been, well, no, if it's 5 minutes, it wouldn't be old. I would imagine they might be able to call, and then maybe it could also be the traffic agents picking them up, because that might be faster, since we have traffic agents throughout. If the 311 calls for like a block driveway, the traffic agent responds and goes over there.
Oh, the traffic agents can respond to 311. So if you give a parking violation, the traffic can respond to that.
Yeah,
Evet تعملين الشاي يا بنت حاضر يا بنت بقول لك يا بنت حرام عليك
what?
And,
No,
Sorry, I'll mute it. I apologize.
it's okay. I thought I had mentioned that just real quick. I thought we just did that in the last question. 301 calls during the day for traffic, for parking tickets, and for traffic enforcement during the day is mostly handled by traffic agents. I thought I had said that. I thought I made that clear.
you did.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I misunderstood. And I guess just final part of my question here. Could you delineate the difference between I actually thought you were referring to Sergeant Hong Thong's division. So what is the difference between what his division's responsible for and then what the standard traffic agents are responsible for?
Okay, so a traffic agent is not a police officer. A traffic agent
Mhm.
works out. They started, I think their headquarters is in Jamaica, I think. And then they come out, they're deployed to different areas, and they come out to the precinct. We have a certain amount of traffic agents deployed to Astoria, Long Island City, and they come out and they write parking tickets. They address those issues. They do not turn out of our precinct. We don't, they work over there. We can make requests of them. I think I've never made a request of them, but I'm sure that it can be done, and I'm sure that it is done through like traffic, and then through like management or maybe even Sergeant Hong Thong. So Sergeant Hong Thong is in charge of a group of officers, a team of officers that deal with traffic enforcement in our precinct, especially moving enforcement, and also parking, depending on what the issue is. And that's what he does, and compile some of these numbers for us and all that. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Frank?
Thank you, Officer Tovar, for coming out on your day off. We appreciate that. Just as a point of process for future conversations, as we'd love to be able to do maybe a few of these through the course of the year, would it be helpful if we gave you a pre-list of topics and/or data requests in anticipation of a meeting? Would that be a thing that would be helpful for future conversations like this?
Yeah, you could request them through Florence, and Florence will send them to me, and I'll take care of it.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Frank. So I don't see any more hands up, and I see that it is 7:40, and I don't typically let the public speak, or we just don't have the public speak at committee meetings. Chris, are you here? You had mentioned doing that. It's it's
No, I think, look, I think we should follow the protocol. That's totally fine.
okay.
As mentioned, I'm still very new to
Yeah.
leading these committee meetings, so
When
apologies.
Chris had said that early in the meeting, he was speaking as an advocate and a community member, but I think the structure is it's a committee meeting, and so all the comments from the public should be heard. It's next Tuesday, or is it tomorrow? Is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah, and I would
Tomorrow,
certainly encourage folks to come and take that
Yes,
opportunity to
and-
speak to the full board. Absolutely.
And our relatively new chair, who's with us today, Evie Hanzopoulos, kind of does a lottery on whether the public gets to speak first or last. I don't know Evie, do you have any news on when the public would get to speak tomorrow regarding public speaking? Would it be early? Would it be late? Would you know?
After the public hearing item, and then there's public comment, and then we do our board.
If it's very hard to hear, you're very low.
Sorry.
Thanks.
So we have the public comment in the middle of the meeting. So first we start with our public hearing item, which tomorrow is going to be SCA is going to talk about the new school that's going to be constructed.
We've lost you, Evie. We don't hear you at all. Can other people chime in so I'm not the only bad guy?
Yeah, no, we can't hear Abby. She's low.
I'm not sure why my mic's not working.
Hand
Can you hear
signals.
me now?
Slightly.
Yeah, when you're closer to a computer, it's better.
Okay, I'll get closer. I'm not sure what's up, but public comment will be kind of in the middle of the meeting. So we have it first. We have the public hearing item, which is going to be about the new school. So School Construction Authority will be speaking. Then we have public comment where any member of the public can speak for up to 2 minutes. And then we have our board business, that component of the meeting, where we hear from each committee, and then we might take a vote on any items that we need to vote on.
So
the agenda is posted on the board website.
so it's in the center, in the middle of the meeting. So is Officer Tovar still here? Yes. Hi. So thanks, Evie. Backtracking a little bit, and it's because Amanda's father is here, Amanda's parents are here, but we have kind of decided in a little private chat here that Frank, and I don't know your wife's name, I just want to say I have not met you at all, but I'm so sorry to be meeting you. And I've been to many ghost bike mountings and certain other, and even installed some, and so it's very painful. And I know the members of Families for Safe Streets and other safety groups. So if you would like to say a few words, we're just going to let Frank and Mrs. Servideo speak. I think that would be an important part of our meeting. I'd be honored to have you say a few words. But you need to unmute yourself. You're muted. Can Frank Servideo be unmuted?
We are. Can you hear me?
Yeah, someone just unmuted you. We can hear you, Frank. Hi. Hi.
My name is Frank Servideo. I'm here with Amanda's mother, Adi Servideo. We are interested in everything that's being said at these meetings. We want to be more involved in any of the community meetings that are going on in the city. In a nutshell, we really want to find out if it's possible that Amanda's tragic death may result in safer streets. We really want to do everything that we can to not have another family have to go through what we went through. We also want to just make sure that, or at least we hope that the case can be closed and that
He's caught.
the perpetrator is caught and justice is established all the way around.
I do want to tell Officer Tovar and Officer Wands, who were very helpful to us. I want to thank you for everything you did for us while we were still in New York. But we need answers and we need change. And that's what needs to go. You can't answer these questions for us or anybody, any of these questions the community has for you. It's the top brass that needs to be hearing this. And those are the meetings that they have to be held accountable. I got the minutes from the last one in November, and I was not pleased. I would hope that they have more answers for the community. And we hope to be at the next meeting in January. Thank you, Officer Tovar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Officer Tovar, I guess our meeting will move on to new business and our and close up. But thank you so much for your time. It's really appreciated. Of course, it's appreciated that these important points do get taken back, and that over the next few months, we hope to kind of, as I say, be aware of some results, a lot, positive results, and that we know that it's a slow climb, but we're the community, like I say, it looks at the streets from a different vantage points than the majority of police officers do, and so whatever we can do to make it safer is of utmost importance to everybody in the room and majority of people in the community. So thanks for all that you do to help us attain that in the next months and years. Do you have any final comments, Officer Tovar?
No, but to Mr. and Mrs. Severio, sorry for your loss and thank you for being here. And don't think that your message is not going to be heard. I'm taking this message back, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And like I said, you are heard, and thank you for coming here and talking to us. As far as Mr. Stiller, did you have something else? I'm sorry.
Not too many
What was
people.
that?
Not too many people call me Mr. Stiller around here. I thought you were talking about my dad. But no, it's great. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon, and I hope to see you at the open meeting. Thanks for your time. Hope you're not too cold in the drive.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Okay, so we typically move on to new business in our transportation committee, Chris, and I personally don't have any. So
Yeah, Dominic, we really called this as a special meeting to talk about this topic and other, traffic and enforcement related topics. So there will be another public safety committee meeting after the new year, but there is no new business as of now from our.
I think that it's so important to step out of the transportation, viewpoint, because it is admittedly a lot of us versus them. And so when you bring it in under the public safety realm, it erases a lot of that. So let's stay on it. And I think it's really been important. And I don't know, I think it was actually NAS, in my opinion, that kind of drove this. I may be wrong. I know Adam was helpful too. But thank you guys for making this happen. While we're, if we all want to just, I see actually Evie's got her hand up. But after that, if we all want to just open our mics and speak and have a, and then say goodnight, let's do it. Evie, you want to say something, Ev?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, since Mr. and Mrs. Servideo are they basically said it needs to kind of go to the top brass. I'm just wondering, would we want to consider sending a letter to the police commissioner?
Yeah, Evie, and I apologize. We did in our pre-preparatory meeting discuss that. Sorry that somehow didn't come out, but absolutely. I don't think there's any dissenting voice on that.
In my opinion, it would basically be a summary of these points and reiterate how important they are, and tell the NYPD we want to work together to see these things improve, and then through the community board, make sure they do to the best of our ability. But it's a big uphill climb because it's a cultural differences. There's a lot of elephants in the room, such as NYPD parking methods and the maybe driving methods and so forth. It's a lack of public, them using public transport, lack of them using bicycles, I think is key. Lack of them being pedestrians on patrol. So it all separates the community from the police department, in my opinion. So perhaps Chris, but I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get emails from Adam and Kian with the perfect verbiage in a few hours of what we should say, and we'll work together to get a letter out. With the open meeting tomorrow, I don't see it being by tomorrow, but I think immediately following that, Chris and I and the committees will put our heads together and get you something that we'd like to vote on to send. And maybe we'll even chat tomorrow and see if we can get something complete tomorrow. So thank you. We'll do that. So I do see Bobby wants to say something. Should we let him? Bobby?
Okay, sure. Thanks. I was just curious if we were going to be able to see the letter before it gets sent to the police commissioner. We being the committee members.
Yeah, we should. Yes, 100%.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Frank, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back on the letter. I think we brought this up in the meeting. We think it'd be really great to do. I'm happy to, with Chris's blessing, make sure our side of the joint letter, we can move it as quickly as possible, even to the extent that if there's verbiage that can be distributed today that we feel comfortable with, we could even see if maybe it's too late to add to the agenda for tomorrow, so it has to be January. I don't know policy on that side, but I would be very eager to see that forward, and also find the appropriate channels for follow-up after the fact, of course. So it's not just a letter into the ether, but that there's follow through and follow up. That's it. Thank you.
It's always better that we bring the letter than just say we want to write a letter. So let's talk tomorrow about whether we do bring that letter by emails, and so we'll be in touch with you, Evie, before the meeting if we can get that for your consideration before the meeting tomorrow.
And I'll put my email in the chat, so anyone who wants to be contributing to that letter, feel free to reach out to me. We can work together through a Google document.
I'm just going to make a recommendation that we just take a few minutes now to just basically say what you want to be in the letter. So
Sure.
It's actually, because, you're not. So
I guess we're all a little.
The main points, and then someone, whether it's, Dom, you or someone has the draft of the letter that then can be circulated.
Sure.
You can't have like a back and forth on the letter discussion.
Yeah,
Let's talk about what those.
I guess there's from this chair a little personal exhaustion, but I will get some energy and let's do it. I think it's a good idea. I'm gonna just basically go to my minutes draft and start there.
Well, I would also take Frank up on his kind offer to help with the letter. My bandwidth is
100%.
pretty
100%. We're just gonna
Yeah,
throw.
I unfortunately can't be there tomorrow evening, but I think Evie's right. I think let's just go through it and try
Let's
to
do it, yeah. Or as we say, throw up on the page. So I would like to. I think that we'll get effective change by slowly infiltrating the 114 and having our concerns slowly migrate through the rooms in their ranks, and that's why I suggest we keep it technical and list the points that we had put on our list of concerns. I think that we don't have to do that of course. You might be thinking, no, that's too specific.
So I'm sorry, Dom. Was this letter to be covering all of the points or to be focused on the police chase issues? I think there's a risk of diluting if we have too many things in the letter.
It definitely should be a single issue letter.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. I'd just like us not to lose all the other.
No, without a doubt.
More boring items, and less, in the coming weeks. There's no reason we can't send more letters and cooperatively work with the 114.
Agreed, and I just think this rises to such a level that it really warrants being a single issue letter with a real call for action. Whether that action is as basic as a follow-up meeting, but some expectation from the brass, the higher ups, that there be some. Yeah.
All right, somebody throw up on the page. I'm writing.
I'm doing it in our notes, so I'm not sure where you're doing this. Do you have separate? No, I guess you have a separate thing, right?
Frank. Sorry, I've lost the Zoom.
Sorry, I thought you were in the same document I was, and I realized you're not. Here, I'm going to put in the chat.
Would you like to share? Or you're probably, I don't know if you're able to share.
Oh, sure, yeah, I'll just do that. If you want, because I already have.
Are you able to share? Sometimes I don't know if there's permissions.
I do believe I can. Give me 1 minute.
Great, let's do that, and we'll throw up on your page.
Can you please confirm if you can see my screen?
We can see it.
Great. So what I have so far is this is just format for advocacy emails broadly. Identify the issue, affirm that we recognize the efforts that have been made, state our concern about the policy itself and its application, because we want this to be focused on the policy and its application and not about the specific, just the one case, right? The change we're looking for is policy. Add data that substantiates the fact that this is a peak over time and that it's increased and that our jurisdiction is particularly affected, both which we know to be true. Then state our preference for the policy change, then state our preference in change of application of the policy. And then from there, invitation for further conversation and request for follow-up. But I want to open it up if other folks have other bits they want to have added in here. Like, or specific points within each of these.
I think that's a pretty good baseline structure for the ask, especially since it's like one big one.
I want to be very mindful of hold on, I got to get this back open now. There we go. The Savedillo families, like both support and also want to respect that they're in a time of grieving. So I will share my email. If you have anything you want contributed into this so that I reflect the spirit of what you're doing, but also with no expectation, because I know you have a lot going on elsewhere. Sorry, I don't know if you hear lots of screaming in the background. I've got 3 kids and they're all attempting to go to bed or fighting to go to bed.
That's a new one. Fighting to go to bed. God bless you, Frank.
I'm fighting from
You're lucky. Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm jet lagged. Sorry. I see hands. Would you like me to chair the section of getting extra input from folks on this? I see.
Frank, feel free to call on folks to add their comments.
Okay, Antonella, I see the first hand.
Yeah, I may have missed this, but shouldn't we include the current policy on the letter and then expand from the current policy to make it safer and see if they can, I guess we need to, is it up to us to toss out strategies to try to mitigate some of these spaces, or I mean, these car chases, or do we have to get a committee together to do that? I don't, like, are we supposed to offer solutions in this letter so that it doesn't happen again?
I believe that well, two things. Number one, I think the official chase policy was taken down from the NYPD website recently, so we're gonna have a very hard time speaking directly to what is written. Yeah, I see Kian's affirming that fact. Secondarily, well, we could come up with specific language. None of us are particularly lawyers in this space. I do think as citizens, though, we can somewhat eloquently communicate what we find unacceptable from existing policy and, be very specific about that. But as for how they want to reword that is going to be a thing that's probably going to happen between them and lawyers and all this other stuff. But if anyone has a background in that and wants to draft specific language, I certainly wouldn't be counter to that. I think that's just a level of specificity we may not be well positioned to give.
Thank you. Thanks,
Right,
Frank.
because my question is, sorry to interrupt, is it simply a reduction in chases that we want, or is there some other type of chase consideration? You know what I mean? So it's hard to clearly define the request.
Yeah.
That's why there's two pieces. I think our headline is we want there to be less chases and less lethal outcomes of these sorts of situations. Therefore, that's A, the policy, and B, the application of the policy. Because even if they're following the policy, they do have the ability that a decision is being made that we're going to utilize this rule for this specific chase. When in fact, as brought up, several of them could have been pretty, I think a case could have been made to not make a chase because it didn't cross what we understand to be the last public version of that law or that policy. So I think those are the two parts, application and the policy itself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pivot over to Evie.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if the policy is not something that's publicly accessible, that is something that we should ask for. But also, I think.
Evie, speak up.
Sorry, I don't know what's up with my mic today. I was saying that I think we should ask that the policy be made public too, right? That it's not public now. So to make sure that there's transparency there. I do think that, of course, we're not, it's not just about this one case. It is about the policy overall. But I do feel, if it's okay with Amanda's parents, just to indicate in the letter that they're taking the time to go and advocate for this issue, and they should not have to do that, right? So, we are writing this letter, in support of them, and also to prevent things happening in the future. But I just also want to thank them for being here tonight during this very painful time, because they do want to see change, and I think that that's something that we should include in the letter, if that's okay.
Absolutely. And to the Savedillo family, you'll notice I'll put my email in the chat for your contributions to the extent you feel comfortable. Yes, buddy. Okay.
Madam Chair, wouldn't those normally go through the board office? You're muted, Madam Chair.
Frank will send anything to you.
Let's get, why don't we get Florence's email in the chat as well, if that's okay.
Not so much Florence's email as everything is public record.
The board email, it'd be good to get the board email.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate that.
So can you say that email, and I'll write it in the chat. Was it QN01? Or you put it in already up top, Florence, I know. QN01 at CB, there it is. So Frank, if you could include this in any emails. Earlier in the day, I also given Frank and I had exchanged emails as well.
Great, happy to add that.
So you're doing well, Frank, you're doing well.
I think unless anyone has anything else they'd like, I'm happy to turn it back over to the chairs. And I think we've had we've taken a step forward together, and I think we know what the next few steps are that we can be doing. And I think we all recognize this is going to be an ongoing effort.
But can we see your document again? Because I've kind of been writing on the side here. Let's as Evie wants us to bust this out. So let's yeah, okay. So you know what I mean? Let's put some meat in all these points. So you can take a I don't know if you can cut and paste from the chat, but Kian's been putting some facts. I know that we want to keep it short. I've been just kind of writing here, although existing policy is not quite clear. CB1 is interested in there being transparency in high-speed chase management. A reduction in non-critical or bad, what's the right adjective there? And, you know, in reduction in chases that shouldn't happen. Give me an adjective there. Frivolous.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing this in the chat.
No. I'm just writing on the side here until I put it in there. I'm just throwing up on the page, as I say. I don't see any, you know, Frank, I thought you maybe were going to edit that live in the chat. Sorry to put you on the point.
Sorry. I thought that was sufficient amount of detail and we would just populate it and then come back.
But I thought the plan was.
That was my understanding too.
Sorry, what's the level of specificity you're looking for? Do you want actual paragraphs right now? I thought this was.
I don't think that's necessary to do on this call. I think we've got a lot of bullet points. I do think Keon's data on the side in the chat is important and relevant, and I think we could definitely circle back early tomorrow on another call, or Frank could take a stab if he's okay. I'm volunteering him since he's been taking such good notes, and we could all do a very quick round of edits tomorrow and then have it ready.
So with that, Frank, I'm available to review that, and I'll do some writing here too. So Bobby, you know, this will probably be hopefully emailed to everybody prior, and definitely discussion at tomorrow's meeting, and that'll be the plan. So, you know, knowing the way my day goes, it's probably going to be closer to 5 o'clock than 1 o'clock. So, and you're also please encouraged to email anything to us, to Frank directly through Florence, at your availability, because I know you've got a good interest in a lot of, you know, you're a real important soldier in the safe street there on 31st Avenue, open street. So, thanks. All right. So, yep. Thank you. So we will leave it there. Frank, let's email tomorrow and get on this and get a letter drafted for Evie's consideration, and we'll take contributions the normal way. Great. So I guess any other transportation committee new business?
I have one question. Hi, this is Cornella. Can you hear me?
Cornella, how you doing?
Hi. I just want to say I'm very sorry for the loss of your daughter, Mr. and Mrs. Sevito. I don't know if I said your name right. But my thing is, when you write this letter, is it okay to copy like advocates of Vision Zero just to get more support? Just a question.
No, it's a little muffled. You're asking, I'm sorry, could you just ask your question again?
Yes. Is it okay to copy Vision Zero advocates to get more support for this elimination of the cases?
For the what?
Around the city?
What was the last thing you said for the?
My understanding is she's asking who all should be recipients of this letter.
Okay.
Is it One Police Way? Do we want somebody from the 114th? Is it other specific agency offices? I would love to know that answer too.
I actually thought Quinella was asking if we should copy other advocates.
Right.
Yes,
I
yes,
thought so too.
yes,
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear.
yes. A Vision Zero, just to get more support for this elimination of chases around the city.
Right.
Well, yeah,
Sure.
Quinella, I would say, yeah, there's certainly no harm in the copying. I think in the interest of time, we don't want to try to get, everybody who we might.
But they'll all see this letter when
Okay.
once we write it, there's reporters at our meeting tomorrow, and they'll all be aware of this, and that I think that word will get out by itself to all the Safe Streets advocates that we all know and don't know in the city.
I do have a point of clarity that I wanted to ask Frank, and this might have been just a language thing. You used the word reduce chases. There are many folks who are advocating, including our local council member, as you know, for a complete stop and ban on any chases because of the potential damage and harm. I think we need to be clear in our letter about what language we use and what exactly are we requesting.
For this, so I think it's a great proposal and that we do need clarity and some consensus.
Yeah.
To that, I'd actually really like Frank's proposed language of elimination of unnecessary chases. I feel like that's a big enough tent.
Yeah, that's good.
That
works. Yep.
Everyone's needs.
That works. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page about what language is going into the letter.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank, for sharing that framing.
All right. So, Frank Fredericks, if you could email me that list, because it's not I can't take it. I'd appreciate it, and we'll work together and we'll get this done tomorrow. So I'm going to say we'll call an end to the sub part of the Transportation Committee meeting, and now fully back to you, Chris, to do the same on a global way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take a call for anybody who might want to raise any quick issues related to public safety that was not relevant to this conversation. Keeping in mind that we will call another meeting certainly for the first quarter of next year. If not, I think we are ready to close this meeting. And Florence, please tell me if I'm not following the protocol as I continue to learn.
Someone will say motion to adjourn.
Perfect. You don't even need a motion to adjourn. You can say goodnight because there's no quorum or vote.
Right.
Yeah, but just notate it's 8:10. You have to put that in your report.
Thank you for that, Antonella.
Welcome.
And on that note, I would say thank you so much. I also want to, really express my sincere condolences. I'm sorry that it was under these circumstances that we had to have our special guests, but this is such an important matter, and I think their presence here tonight will go a long way to moving the needle on this very, very important issue. I also want to thank Dom and all the folks on the Transportation Committee who suggested this joint meeting. I think it was very, very important and relevant. And on that note, I will stop talking and say thank you and good night. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you, Harish Studios. Have a wonderful evening.